This video is brought to you by Patreon show sponsor CT Sounds. You can see everything they have to offer at ctsounds.com. It's your boy Hi-Fi Vega, back again. This time we're reviewing the Savard HiQ 6.5. I'm also going to give you a free box design later in the video, so make sure you watch to the end. But for now, let's get straight into the enclosure build, and then we'll get into some demos. Alright, so I've got my top marked here. I went ahead and marked where my ports were and the edges of the baffle, since they're the walls and the baffle, since they're inset a ½ inch. That way I know where to put my screw holes. Let's take a look inside here. Now, I built one for myself and Derek, and I learned an important lesson. That lesson is on the ports, use MDF, for the simple fact that this alder wood, it's not perfectly straight, and I don't have a planer here to use to get it perfect, so MDF ports saved me a ton here. I've rounded them over. I've got it all sealed up, so all that's left is go ahead and put some glue on the top, pre-drill my screw holes, and then I'll screw this in, and I'll go ahead and patch up all the screw holes like I've done so far on here. And then we'll sand it up and paint everything. Well, not paint, but stain. And yeah, we'll come back and show you the finished product. If you're enjoying this video and you're thinking to yourself, hey, I'd like to see a little bit more of what Hi-Fi Vega does, you should check out the podcast I do with my good buddy Derek from Wilson Audio. It's called 12E Talk. We are live every Wednesday at youtube.com/12E Talk at 7 p.m. Central. We're also available as an audio-only podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and many more. Like I mentioned before, I did build 2 of these enclosures. One of them was for Derek, and the only difference really is that I put the external bolts on his so we can wire series and parallel outside of the box. I just put a simple terminal cup on mine, so I will have to pull the subwoofer if I need to change the impedance. Now what do you say we get this thing mounted and we hear some demos? If you got headphones near you, now'd be a good time to grab them, because it'll work best if you got headphones or a decent speaker system. I'm going to play y'all a couple demos of the Savard 6.5 HiQ subwoofer. As you can see, I've got all my windows open and that little tiny sub box back there in this huge Suburban. So yeah, let's check it out, see what it does. We'll start with track number 1 here. Number 5, let's see what it does with this one. This one plays a little bit lower, and this sub likes to play low. Number 7. Now for some final thoughts on the Savard HiQ 6.5. You guys kind of already know, I love Savard. I love what they're doing. I think they're doing great things. They're making really nice subs that appeal to me. And this sub in particular, man, this thing, it shocked me how good it sounds. I was not expecting the level of sound quality that I was able to achieve with this subwoofer. And that was the really big thing that shocked me. The output is great, it's very good, and it's up there with the best 6.5s I heard as far as output wise, but it just sounds fantastic. So if you're thinking about it, I think it's still on promo price for like $70. Pick it up. Pick one, pick two, pick three, pick four of them up. I can't recommend it enough. I may get a couple more myself. So outside of that, let's get on to this box design. I wanted to give you guys kind of a free box design in this video, and you guys kind of know I'm old school, so this is how I do my box designs. Not on the computer. I draw them up on paper. Although I do put them in WinSD, so it is a little bit of a cheat. But yeah, once I'm going to build it, I draw it out on paper. That's how I've always done it. That's the way I like to do it. I will turn this into a PDF file, and I'll leave a link to it below in the description. Let's kind of go over what I did. The basic layout is 20.5 inches, 9.5 inches tall by 11 inches deep. That's the outside dimensions. I've got every single piece sorted out for your cut list here. This is about a 1/2 cubic foot for the chamber, and the rest of its port, it's tuned around 35 hertz. Everything sits inside of the top and bottom, so that is covering the full depth the top and bottom is. And then of course the sides are inset, so the sides sit inside of the enclosure. The only difference from this box I drew up and mine is that I have a 1/2 inch inset all the way around. So if you wanted to do that, you can add 1 inch to the top and bottom both on both dimensions, and then use a piece of 1/2 inch wood to space it when you're putting it together. It's pretty self-explanatory how to build it. The only things I would recommend you do is on the port side, it is 3/4 of an inch longer because it extends out the whole way to meet the baffle. So your side number 1 is 3/4 of an inch shorter. The ports, I have a marked port 1, port 2, and port 3. I would assemble port 1 and port 2 before you put it in the enclosure. That way it makes it a lot easier once you get it in the enclosure. And I would also round over that edge before you mounted it in the enclosure. I would mount the front baff, the front baffle, I'd round over both sides right here. And very important, if you're going to inset it like I did mine, cut your hole out first. Otherwise you have a lot of trouble. When I've done this, I've made this mistake myself, and I made it on this one where I did not cut my hole out before I mounted the baffle. The cutout is 5 7/8 per Savard's recommendation, or Savard's data sheet. Yeah, I think that about covers it. Oh, okay, one important note. We have a 1.5 inch inset here from where you start, the end of your cutout will end. That way you were behind port number 3 here. And just make sure that you round everything over port wise before you get it in there, before you mount it. That'll save you a ton of time. It'd be much easier outside of the enclosure. And I like to paint my ports before I mount them. That way you at least have the black in there, and it's not a big pain when you go to build this, especially if you're going to build this out of birch or something you want to stain. It's a bit of a pain to paint afterwards. If you're covering with carpet, it should be fine. So I hope you guys can use this 6.5 inch enclosure. I hope you can use it on a Savard Hi-Q 6.5. It may work on other 6.5s, I'm not sure, but the dimensions are 1/2 cubic foot of airspace, tuned around 35 hertz. Your port is around 32 inches long here, and it's 1 inch wide by 8 inch high. That is a dimension that I did not include in there, but I will make sure that when I put it on the PDF that it is in there. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Yeah, please, if you liked it, like, subscribe, drop a comment below. Let's keep the conversation going. Shout out to all my Patreon supporters, but a special shout out goes to $6 or more members: Alistair McCullum, 2001 Monolithic, The Third Era, G Nava, Joaquin Juarez, Paul Smith, Jason Nisley, Rick Quattlebaum, William Berg, CT Sounds, Byron Chambliss, the Car Audio Guy, and Jason Zymer. For as little as $2 a month, you can get on the team and get exclusive Patreon-only content not available on YouTube.
I stay loose, I stay hype, I stay loose, I stay hype, I stay loose, I stay hype. I could do this all night, cause I do what I like. Yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sipping goose, sip is right, and I go with the flow. Yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow. Cause I know I'm the show, in the zone